Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take important source material today. It's a very specific operational bulletin and really break it down. We want to give you those critical insights you need, for making quick decisions, cutting through the noise, basically. So today, we're looking squarely at November, operational continuity. Our source is the GWT2Energy weekly U.S. weather forecast, impacts on restaurant operations. It's dated November 3rd, 2025. Now, maybe you don't run a restaurant, that's fine, but GWT2Energy is great at translating this high-level weather data into real operational pressure points. Think facilities, supply chains, energy needs. That's why their thresholds are so valuable.
Exactly. And that's the key thing here. This isn't just a weather report we're reading. It's a risk assessment. Our job today is to pull out the crucial bits about this really transitional weather pattern for the U.S. in November 2025. We're focusing on the stuff that really strains operations, HVAC systems, unexpected refrigeration loads, staffing issues, energy costs, that sort of thing.
Right. And GWT2Energy gives us some really clear lines in the sand, specific criteria that trigger their operational alerts. They're watching for highs over 95 Fahrenheit, lows dipping below 40 Fahrenheit, or, and this is a big one, any temperature swing, an anomaly of 15 degrees Fahrenheit or more from the average.
Yeah, 15-degree mark is critical.
Yeah, hit that. And your budget, your staffing plans, your actual systems, they're instantly under pressure, no question.
Exactly. And we're going to track these triggers across 3 time frames. Think of it like an operational arc. We've got the immediate 7-day window, let's call that triage, then the 14-day outlook for system calibration, and finally the 21-day view for resource allocation.
Okay, perfect. Let's jump into phase 1 then. Immediate triage. This covers November 4th to the 10th. What's the risk profile looking like for this first week? What needs immediate attention?
Well, for this first stretch, the bulletin is actually pretty clear on major severe weather. Hurricanes, tropical storms, basically negligible. Formation odds are low, maybe 10–15%, and the threat to the U.S. coast is minimal. Same story for tornadoes, really. Very low risk overall.
Okay, but there's usually something lurking, isn't there? Where might we see some isolated activity?
Yeah, it flags a very small chance, like 5%, for isolated thunderstorms, maybe some tornado warnings popping up. And that risk is pinpointed right where you'd expect that initial clash of air masses, the Central Plains, think Kansas City area, and maybe the Ohio Valley around Cincinnati. But honestly, the immediate action item isn't really severe weather. It's the temperature. That's the shock.
Okay. This is where the operational pressure starts to build then. So temperatures might sound near average overall, but the report highlights a significant cold push setting up early in the north. What does that actually mean on the ground?
It means the north gets hit with an immediate cold shock. Now, no extreme heat is expected anywhere, no highs above 95 F, so cooling systems aren't the initial worry. But there's a pretty decent chance, maybe 40%, so nearly 50-50, of northern lows dropping below that crucial 40-degree Fahrenheit operational mark.
And that's the GWT2Energy trigger, right? That 40-degree line signals potential equipment problems, heating systems specifically.
Precisely. The bulletin points to potential for jarring negative 10-degree Fahrenheit anomalies. Think Chicago, Minneapolis.
Wow, minus 10 degrees below normal already.
Right. And that deviation means your heating systems are suddenly working flat out, maybe a week or two earlier than planned. This isn't just about comfort, it's about risk. Risk of gas pressure issues, unexpected HVAC failures, especially if maintenance wasn't done yet.
So the triage action is check those heating systems now, don't wait.
Exactly. Get them checked immediately.
Okay, that definitely sets the stage. Immediate danger is the northern cold shock. Let's shift to phase 2, system calibration. This takes us through November 17th. Do these patterns stay put, or do they start to interact more?
Oh, they intensify, and they really start to diverge dramatically. Hurricane risk ticks up just slightly, maybe 15–20% formation chance, but still low U.S. exposure. The bulletin mentions the southeast, perhaps Miami as an area to watch, but it's still low probability.
Okay, and what about tornadoes mid-month? Any change there?
Still pretty low scattered activity, maybe a 10% probability noted. It shifts a bit inland, though. The advisory mentions the Tennessee Valley, Nashville, and down into Georgia, maybe Atlanta.
So minor adjustments needed for regional protocols, but not a widespread threat.
Right. But the real story, the hinge point for planning, is this temperature divergence. This is where the U.S. really splits in two, thermally speaking. It forces you to calibrate for opposite extremes at the same time.
Okay, lay that out for us. What does that divergence look like?
Absolutely. Mid-November shows this Stark and, frankly, expensive contrast. You've got a pretty high likelihood, maybe 50%, of above normal temperatures sticking around in the west and central U.S. So persistent, unexpected mildness. Places like Denver could be seeing positive 10-degree Fahrenheit anomalies.
Okay, hold on. A plus 10-degree anomaly in Denver in mid-November. Why is that financially critical? Break that down.
Well, think about your utility contracts. They're budgeted assuming cooling needs are basically zero by November, right? Suddenly, with a plus 10 anomaly, you might be running cooling systems. Maybe not like peak summer, but unexpectedly. Refrigeration compressors work harder, stressing the cold chain. And you could be drawing power during higher demand periods you didn't budget for. That sustained mildness is a hidden cost pressure point. The bulletin's flagging it for calibration.
Makes sense. Recalibrating the expected energy burn.
Yeah.
But, okay, resources are finite. Staff, capital. Isn't it smarter to prioritize the extreme cold? The bulletin says the north of cold persists and even gets worse.
And that's the core challenge for calibration, isn't it? Because the North is facing a potential emergency. The likelihood of lows below 40 degrees stays high, around 45%. And the bulletin specifically calls out Boston, with potential for really serious, jarring, negative 15-degree Fahrenheit deviations.
Minus 15 degrees below normal.
Yeah.
That's massive. That kind of deviation suggests standard precautions might not be enough.
It signals potential system failures. When you hit a negative 15 deviation that early, you're worrying about systems not just underperforming, but actually failing. Frozen lines, mandatory closures, perhaps. The calibration needed there is intense preventative maintenance. Not just your own HVAC, but checking external supplies, insulation.
So completely different priorities.
Totally different. One region prepping for unexpected warmth, the other for potentially dangerous deep cold. Opposing resource demands.
Okay, let's look at the final phase then. Phase 3, resource allocation. This covers the full 3 weeks up to November 24th. What patterns emerge by the end of the month? How do we allocate resources long term?
Well, this period is mostly the seasonal wrap-up for tropical threats. Activity odds are around 20%, but minimal U.S. impact expected. Maybe 10% exposure risk for the Gulf Coast, but tropical systems are really winding down.
But the severe weather risk ticks up slightly again. Suggests that clash between air masses is still potent.
Yes, exactly. That persistent battle zone, mild south, cold north, leads to a slight increase in scattered severe weather probability, maybe up to 15%. The bulletin mentions parts of Texas, like Dallas and Oklahoma, maybe Tulsa. So long-term, you need to allocate resources for potential localized storm response teams in those areas.
All right, so stepping back, looking nationally by late November, what's the overall temperature picture? Does the mildness finally take over everywhere?
The mild trend is the dominant feature overall, particularly in the long-term view. We're seeing a 50 to 60% chance of above normal temps across the central and west. California, for instance, is forecast to keep those plus 10-degree anomalies, possibly right through Thanksgiving week. So long-term resource allocation definitely needs to account for ongoing cooling equipment maintenance and potential energy use there.
But the north sounds like it's still stuck in that cold pattern.
Absolutely stuck. Lows below 40 remain likely. 50% chance in the northeast. And those dangerous negative 10 to 15-degree anomalies, they're still hanging around. Persistent cold stress. So if you connect the dots across all 3 time windows, the constant theme is managing the split. Extreme sustained cold in the north and northeast versus persistent above-average mildness in the west and central areas.
The real balancing act.
It really is. It means you could be paying overtime for snow crews and dealing with frozen pipes in Boston, while at the same time scheduling unexpected AC service in Denver and paying higher cooling costs. It makes central budgeting incredibly complex.
So bringing it all together, what's the core operational recommendation from GWT2Energy based on this 3-week outlook?
It's pretty direct. Use these insights to calibrate systems specifically for this northern chills and western mildness scenario. Your planning has to tackle both sides simultaneously. Prepare for HVAC strain, personnel safety in the extreme cold, and manage inventory, refrigeration demands driven by that persistent warmth.
You can't just prep for one or the other.
No, you're essentially managing 2 conflicting seasons happening at the same time across the country.
Got it. And just a necessary final point here, this bulletin is guidance based on public sources. It's not official meteorology. GWT2Energy themselves say consult NOAA, NWS, the Storm Prediction Center for the latest official alerts. These probabilities can and do change.
Absolutely critical reminder.
Okay, so to recap the main insight for you, the listener, this November looks like a masterclass in operational duality. You need simultaneous prep for really jarring cold anomalies, potentially minus 15 degrees below normal in the north, happening alongside significant stress-inducing mildness, like those plus 10-degree anomalies persisting out west and central.
Yeah, and it really brings up a bigger question, doesn't it, for people thinking about supply chains, national infrastructure. When you have these increasingly divergent weather patterns, one part of the country focused entirely on leading, the other on unexpected cooling, how does resource allocation adapt? Beyond just the retail level, how does the national energy grid cope with needing maximum heating fuel here and sustained cooling capacity over there?
That's a massive logistical puzzle. Definitely something for you to think about as you plan. Which of these anomalies poses the greater unanticipated strain on local energy grids this November? Is it the extreme -15 cold deviation hitting Boston? Or is it that continuous unbudgeted plus 10 mildness in a place like Denver? The cold is severe, but the mildness is relentless. We'll leave you with that one to consider.